Hello and welcome back to another video feature of the Immersive Worlds Handbook. Today I'm at Expo 2015 in Milan, specifically taking you through the Italian Pavilion. And the Italian Pavilion, I think you would agree, is one of the most iconic, perhaps the most iconic symbols of the World's Fair, in addition with the Tree of Life. And we're looking at some images here of the exterior and also the interior. And one of the amazing things about the pavilion is its architecture. The fact that it's designed to resemble this urban nest, the fact that they've put so much into the technology, these photovoltaic glass panes. The exterior of the building has a special biodynamic concrete that actually absorbs some of the pollutants from the air. So it is definitely a very intriguing and innovative design in terms of this particular pavilion. Showing you here some of the video queuing to get in. This was my first visit early on I believe it was a Thursday or Friday morning, and this was well before 10 a.m. So you could see this is one of the most popular pavilions in the entire expo. Most hours of the day, 2 if not 3 hours wait. And I think, as you'll see, it's definitely worth the wait once you get inside and you begin to marvel at some of the intriguing displays and technological innovations and the like. Okay, and to mention something conceptually about the design, you'll see the map here of the Italian Pavilion. It's not actually just one building. If you look to the left there, you see with the Italian flag, the main building we're looking at. But in addition, along the corridor, along the street here, there are all these other pavilions. And in fact, I encourage you to look at my video on the Italian regional pavilions, because one of the concepts here was to show the diversity of Italian cultures and landscapes and identity issues and so forth. And as a result, they didn't want to just have the one building. So I think it's quite unique. This is from the official guidebook, and I wanted to show you just some of the text behind this. You can feel free to pause this and read some of the text, certainly if it's going by too quickly. But as you can see, there's so much that goes into this pavilion in terms of telling the story of Italian food identity, cultural issues, even as you'll see dealing with one point a tragedy that happened, an earthquake. One of the things I like the most about the pavilion is the focus on the diversity of cultures. And I mentioned this later, but in line they have this video screen, and they talk about how they wanted to avoid stereotypes. They didn't want to show just a stereotypical vision, if you will, of Italians or Italian culture. And I think that's a challenge of any expo, of any particular cultural pavilion within the expo. And it's something I think they faced head on, and they dealt with very marvelously in terms of how they constructed the different things that you'll see within what they call here the nursery garden of Italy, which I think, again, as a metaphor is quite cool. Okay, right now we're seeing some of my video again as we're queuing in. As I mentioned earlier, a really long wait. But this is one of the pavilions, along I think with Germany certainly, that I would say is well worth the wait, because there's so much intriguing stuff to be had inside. Even just the walk up the stairs, journeying through the space. As you get to the top, towards the 5th or 6th floor, you're going to see some marvelous views of the area, the plaza beyond the pavilion. So much to see inside, even if you took away the exhibits, which themselves are quite fascinating. When you get into some of the first few floors, you're going to see truly outstanding virtual spaces. You're going to see some incredible immersive mirroring and technological constructions. You're also going to see some fascinating foci on Italian identities. Now, this video screen here, I wish I mentioned, I wish that the queue had been a little bit longer, because there's a slide in there that talks about how they wanted to avoid stereotyping, and I just wish I had an image of that. Unfortunately, the loop was going and I saw it, my camera wasn't ready, as sometimes happens. But I do want you to see some of this queuing area, because I think it's a very unique conceptual program that they're laying out here on this video screen. What I tried to do was capture as much of it as I could as possible moving through the queue line. So let's just take a look at some of this as the video rolls here through the queue line. So I didn't get a shot of it, but the video screen said far from cliches. So important thing we'll be talking about later in the video. And again, it's, I think, very easy to marvel at this space. The interior space designed by Nemesi was a result of a international competition. Over 68 different firms competed for the design. And inside this space, they envision this as a very social place. You know, part of this metaphor of the nest is taken to the inside. And this is over 14,000 square meters and has over six different levels. And so I think one of the things you note inside here is that just with the movement of people, the queuing system, it does promote this idea of sociality or social space. You can also see inside they have a lot of artwork in the queuing area. And as I mentioned earlier, they have this very impressive video screen that talks about some of the concepts behind the entire pavilion. And unfortunately, it was one of these cases where I wish the queue had been a little longer because I couldn't read as much as I wanted, and I couldn't get as many images of it because of the fast queue when I visited. So as we're entering the Italian pavilion, it's interesting to note that the concrete behind me is a special pollutant absorbing concrete that actually is part of that sustainability that you note throughout the expo. So pretty neat architectural feature here. Okay, and we're going to take a look at the first part of the tour, and the first part does include a docent, as you'll see. I'll give you the audio here. It is entirely in Italian.
Perché il rivestimento è stato fatto di un cemento biodinamico, quindi un cemento che assorbe le particelle nocive dell'ambiente, le trasforma in sali inerti e quindi contribuisce a migliorare l'ambiente circostante, a diminuire l'inquinamento e rimarrà sempre bianco, quindi non andrà mai a deteriorarsi come un cemento normale. Ma il cardine di questo palazzo ovviamente è l'esposizione. La mostra dell'identità italiana si articola su 3 piani e andrete a vedere le 4 potenze dell'Italia. La potenza del saper fare, 22 personaggi che vi racconteranno le loro storie di imprenditoria, la potenza della bellezza, 21 panorami architettonici e 21 panorami paesaggistici dell'Italia, la potenza del limite, il limite però in questo caso non visto come ostacolo, ma come qualcosa da superare.
Okay, and if you didn't catch some of that text because it was in Italian, let's just go over then the thematic orientation of the pavilion, these 4 strengths or powers. First that we're going to see is the strength of workmanship, the ability to make land productive while preserving it for future generations, followed by the strength of beauty, a veritable life force for all Italians, and then the strength of limits and the strength of the future, an obstacle to overcome that becomes an engine for creativity and innovation. And it says here, everything you will come across during this journey is right there in front of your eyes to be experienced and cherished. Do it. We're proud of it. And we want to share it with the rest of the world. Okay, so you see that they have a very proud and I think philosophical, culturally, aesthetically focused emphasis here on the different themes within the pavilion. And as I mentioned, the first one we'll look at will be the strength of workmanship. So let me show you some of the video here, and again I will leave some of the audio intact so you can hear it potentially again. It's in Italian, but I think it's worth listening to.
Ma il mio nome è Zina Marelli. Raccogliamo una pianta infestante e la trasformiamo in oro nero. Un oro che mattura per 4 anni sottoterra e si può raccogliere solo in terra. Poi si vende in tutto il mondo. Perché la nostra edilizia è la più buona.
nascosto in un vecchio convento. Oggi quel grappolo produce un vino da Oscar che si vende in tutto il mondo e lo produciamo.
Okay, we'll now go through the next segment of the expo. I'll just take you through and show you some of the video here, and I'll at the end give you some of my commentary about this. I thought this was a very intriguing part of the pavilion here in Italy. So I have to say this section on quote typical Italian identities with the little sculptures was really innovative. I'm going to have to go back and look at some of the text there, but I'm not sure if these are real people or if they're sort of, ideal types, but very, very, very cool. Okay, we continue the tour, and you go through some very interesting spaces. Certainly, this one here with the flashing lights and different sound effects. Another queuing area. I mean, you can imagine on a busy day how challenging it is to get people through, and so certainly they had within the space itself other queuing areas that I think allowed for the breaking up of spaces into smaller zones. And I think, as you can see, you could easily spend a few hours, certainly, in the Italian Pavilion. There's so much to see and so much to read. Next, we get into the strength of beauty, again, to focus on these four emphases that are found within the pavilion. So we'll take a look at that. And this is some of the most, I thought, innovative, technologically sound, interesting, creative, aesthetic stuff that you'll see anywhere. And certainly, you get into this is, I think, for me, one of the key highlights of this pavilion. You walk into the space, and indeed, you see beauty and you see technological innovation, and you just are absolutely mesmerized by all of this that you see. I mean, it's just a total enveloping 360-degree experience of all these landscapes and all these forums and all these amazing sights to be seen from various regions in Italy. the room with projections and images, absolutely amazing, as you'll see on the video. Okay, that last round of the footage, I had the sound included so you can get a sense of the immersiveness of that atmosphere. I'm doing a second run through this, and at this point, through the end, I had the GoPro going. I discovered that a lot of what I was experiencing would be better captured with the wide-angle lens, so I did a switch in the middle here. So we'll look at this footage one more time, and then the rest of the tour, including my commentary, will have the GoPro going the whole time. So quite interesting, the last section focused on change in the new, and there was a disturbing image from a basilica that apparently was partially destroyed in an earthquake. I have to read more about that. Okay, and we're continuing the tour, and you can see there's quite a bit of walking, certainly, as you're moving through each individual floor and up and down the stairs. You, I mean, just take in so much in this pavilion. I think it's definitely an amazing experience. This is an interesting section, a world without Italy. So this hints, I think, at a lot of the powers or strengths that they've been addressing throughout the pavilion. And you'll see this giant map here, and then there are a wealth of figures here commenting on their views on what it would be like to not have Italy represented in the world. And actually the individual third from the right and second from the left is Ferran Adrià, the famous chef whom you probably remember from the Spanish pavilion if you had a chance to watch that video as well. So we'll continue to tour through here. I think, but by this point, as I was walking through the Italian Pavilion, I felt like I was in, one of the world's great museums. Just the architecture, the design, the openness, um, incredibly comfortable space to travel through. And I think this was one of the strengths of this pavilion was they had so much space to develop their thematics without having to crowd everything in. You're getting a great view there of that social space below. And again, as I said, in and out, the design is so brilliant here, both in and outside. To our right, we see the social space below us in the nest. To the left, I'll show you some of that in a bit, we see the incredible exterior views of the plaza. Now, this on the left, it was unfortunate, it was closed during my visit, but it was an example of experiencing beauty as someone who is blind might experience it. And I'll show you the text of this, which I discovered on the internet. I was really disappointed that it wasn't open during my visit, but it opened at 11 o'clock, and I ended up going the first visit. So by the time I was up there, I didn't have a chance. It hadn't opened yet, so I didn't have a chance to see it. But this gives you a bit of the description of what you would have seen. And it was unfortunately I missed this because, of course, a lot of my research, I'm fascinated by multi-sensory opportunities in themed and immersive spaces. But maybe the next time there'll be something like that. Okay, we're continuing the queue through the venue here, as you can see. Getting crowded by this point, and you can see a lot of queue lines here. I mean, the space was really well engineered, and certainly you had a lot of docents and guides and people who were helping out with just the traffic control. Once you got in and you did that initial tour that I showed you way at the beginning, where they introduced the 4 strengths or 4 powers, you're essentially on your own. It's self-paced, and I always find it fascinating when you can do crowd control, when you can move people through, given those parameters, given the fact that the guest has so much agency in terms of his or her ability to move through at his or her own pace. So it's a challenge, I would have to say. Okay, now we're looking at the strength of the future. We'll be looking at it here shortly. Always fascinating to see people on their phones in some of these exhibits. I mean, there's so much to see here, and people are on their phones, but maybe they're telling their friends back home how amazing the Italian Pavilion is. Well, what's quite cool here, as you can see, we have the Tree of Life that you've probably seen on the exterior, and so I think that's a very interesting and great inclusion, because you're getting that theme and variation. The guest is allowed to see it here and read about it, and it forms that symbolic core that allows you to reflect on it both inside and outside. Now, the other thing you'll notice in the space, I took some video. It was hard to capture some of this. These are future innovations, not unlike maybe some of the other pavilions we've seen, even future food. The difference being, this would be a new technology for harvesting tomatoes, things of that nature. Again, the emphasis being on food. So a lot of innovations expressed here, almost impossible to capture with the video. Unfortunate. It was one of those things that was almost like a light box, and you can see flashes and sensors going off as I'm trying to capture some of the video of this. So it was a real challenge, to say the least. Okay, and I thought because they're hard to see, I would give you a close-up of one of these interesting boxes here, just to give you a sense of it. This one being tomatoes on Mars. Okay, so we'll continue the queue through here. There is more about the Tree of Life. So there's a nice description narrative of it here, another visual representation of it. And I thought I would try to give you a close-up here of the text describing the Tree of Life, which is so significant to the Expo in Milan. Okay, and I wanted to give you the text here of this last area focusing on the strength of the future and issues of biodiversity, as you'll see in this next section. Yeah, so right now I'm walking through the future section here, and there's a lot of information about, obviously, the survival of Italian flora and fauna. And here you see represented many indigenous species of plant. And then back here, more focus on the tree of life, which becomes a symbol at the end, the future section. I'll show you some video over here from the front side with the GoPro. Okay, and as we look at some of the views, I wanted to offer you these still images. My video didn't capture them, so I include them here. This focuses on the biodiversity area, and I thought it was important to get a sense of some of the innovations that are planned, and this parallels some of the things we saw near the Tree of Life with those tomatoes on Mars and the like. So we can look at a few more slides here. And one of the things that's really cool about the pavilion from the in and the outside with this lattice structure, this nursery structure, as you can see, I'll show you some of the GoPro video here, well into the inside of the pavilion. And then if we walk to the other side, because of the lattice structure, which is covered in glass, you get incredible views of the rest of the expo, as I'll show you here from the other camera. Really just an amazing design, and we can see the tree of life through the lattice here. Very cool. And let me show you a few images that I captured here on the still camera of this children's area, which again I think is a highly innovative area to include in an expo space, and I'll offer you commentary on it here in just a second after the next image. And just behind me is the kids' creative lab, which if you've noticed at the expo, there's been a lot of focus, and also play area here, a lot of focus on kids being involved and participating in the expo, which I think is a great inclusion, not just in the Italian pavilion, but throughout the exhibition space. So this section of the expo discusses the Milan Charter, and there are terminals where you can actually sign and express your commitment, which the Milan Charter, I'll show you an image of it, but basically it focuses on the growing needs of future populations and population growth and lack of access to food and resources. So again, keeping with the Italian, or keeping with the theme of ethics, biodiversity, helping the planet, helping others, that we've witnessed throughout the expo here in Milan. And here are just a few more images of the area that focuses on the Milan Charter. Again, I think it's highly significant for the expo and also for the Italian Pavilion. It was great to see this opportunity for guests here at the Italian Pavilion. Okay, so as I'm exiting the Italian Pavilion, just so much to think about. I think the early parts of the pavilion were absolutely immersive, as I've showed you with some of the video and the mirroring technology. Really brilliant and innovative in every sense imaginable. Just overall, I think it was a great presentation of Italian culture, stressing 4 key issues as we reviewed, and focusing on diversity of culture, which is really key in the first part of the exhibit, and not just presenting this homogeneous notion of Italian identity or Italian culture in terms of these issues of essentialism that we've probably talked about in some of the expo videos. I want to try to get a shot here, if I can, of this sign just at the queuing area, which talked about that these are not cliches, and I think that's a really important part, identification of trying not to stereotype or essentialize Italian culture. Okay, and we see here there's a little bit more of the Oculus technology that we saw in the Slovakia pavilion, so we can check this out a little bit. We'll see here. And here are a few images of this Oculus area, and I'll also show you some video of me struggling. Of course, I can't capture it on the video here, but you'll see video of me struggling to put the glasses on, and I'll offer you a few insights about the experience here. Yeah, so similarly immersive as I noted in the Slovakia pavilion. I'm thinking that hopefully in the future, as they use more of the Oculus technology, it'll be more than just a technological experience, and it will actually integrate with the exposition narratives. And I think that's something I've noted both in Italy and also in Slovakia, is that the narratives sometimes are muted or underdeveloped, and you get too focused on the actual technological experience itself, which I think is a key thing to think about in attraction design and immersive space design. And not surprisingly, we're coming up on the official gift shop at the end of the Italian pavilion, so we do exit through the gift shop. Hope you enjoyed this video feature today here inside the amazing Italian Pavilion, Expo 2015 Milan. Please come back for additional video features of the Immersive Worlds Handbook.